Hosting the Author Studio, the Edina Arts Center is a jewel in leafy Roslyn Park in the city of Edina. It showcases the Peggy Kelly Media Art Studios, the Margaret Foss Gallery, and the Clark Gift Shop. We have a full-service media transfer department where our staff is close enough to keep your projects simple. Our gallery offers many shows throughout the year, including our annual Members Juried Show in the fall. The center serves over 5,000 students and guests each year and offers classes in painting, drawing, jewelry, photography, writing, and many more. Our pottery department features 15 different kilns, and we're known as the biggest little pottery department in Minnesota. At the Edina Arts Center, we live up to our slogan of, "Every day, I need art." Now sit back and enjoy this episode of the Author Studio, hosted by Colin Nelson. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning. It's above zero. The sun is shining. Thank you, Polly.
That's because of me.
Well, welcome to the Author Studio here at the Edina Arts Center. Thank you for coming. Before I introduce our artist, author, you do everything, I think, Polly Norman, I'd like to welcome all of you and ask you to take a look at the brochure on the seat about the Peggy Kelly Media Arts Studio. Thanks to Don, who's running the camera in the back, and Phil and other people in the studio. It's a fabulous opportunity for the public. I'd also invite you to poke around this wonderful building and consider the classes we offer here, membership, the gift shop. You do not need to be an Edina resident to take classes or to be a member here, so we invite your interest in that. We will go for an hour today. I'm going to interview Polly Norman, and then she will be here afterward, I believe, to sell and sign books. Her beautiful, beautiful book will be available in the gift shop. So, let me introduce Polly. Polly is one of the most unique artists I've ever met. Every single show she has entered here at the Edina Arts Center, right? She has won.
Just about, yeah.
I thought it was every single show.
Almost every single, yeah.
Let me tell you about some of her awards, by the way. In 2006, 7, and 13 at the Edina Arts Center, she's won the Merit Award and the Award of Excellence. In 2009, she won Best of Show at the Elk River Arts Center. 2010, first place in the Juried Art Show that's in White Bear Lake, I believe.
Yes, on Northern Lights.
2011, she also won Best of Show at the White Bear Lake Arts Center. 2012, Best of Show at the Hopkins Center for the Arts. You get the picture here? And she also has permanent collections, which are displayed in Maplewood, various museums, Edina City Hall, and the Hennepin Center for the Arts. So welcome,
Thank you.
Polly, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let me read a quote that Polly, I believe, is in this
Yes,
book.
it's the
But
first.
let me show you the book. We're going to be talking about this throughout the hour. And of course, the images behind us are from the book, except for the one on the far left, which is a
Well,
new one.
actually, the one on the far left is a crop of one in the book.
Okay.
I created it to be a watercolor print in the back of the book. So if the first 100 copies, you get a piece of art. You get that.
Oh,
so it is from one that it's relatively new, but it is in the book.
Oh, we've got to put a pitch in for that. So if you buy the book,
you get that. You get that.
You get that print.
Yeah.
Just today, though.
Yes. That's not true.
Unless you meet Polly tomorrow.
However, they are selling, out. So
good. Well, let me quote. This is what Polly said: "To deal with the chaos of life, I escape into the prism of glass, dancing to the visual music in my mind. My photographs express my interior movement from darkness into light and back." Tell us, why does that express the essence of your work?
Well, part of it is through darkness and lightness is I have had some issues with anxiety and depression, and so this has been an outlet for me to express some painful times, and I also believe that out of mental illnesses or psychological problems comes a creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I have statistics, I don't know them by heart, but many artists have various mental illnesses, and it is proportionally larger quantity in artists.
Mm-hmm.
So, which makes sense to me because I think you come from a different place. And, I think for abstract art, this comes from, a different mind.
You said that because of your anxiety and depression, that your life is
yes.
like this, where maybe my life is like this.
Right, absolutely.
And
that's
most people are.
Good way to describe it.
Yeah, and because you have these plateaus and valleys, you see things differently.
Yes.
Perhaps than other people would.
I think so, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, I think it's a unique mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think having a unique mind like that also makes unique work.
Uh-huh.
And I think the abstract part, too, is part of the mental state. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, we'll talk about that
Yeah.
because I want to talk a little bit about the training you've been through, which was very, what would you call it, classical landscape portrait.
One of my
realism.
instructors is in the audience, Cecile Hartley. She's a fabulous artist, and she taught me how to draw. When I was young, I thought, there's no way I can be an artist. I was good at art, but I always had this stubborn notion that I can never be an artist because I can't draw. And I think I told you that, Seal. I'm not sure. Well, I learned that you can learn how to draw. My brother, I still think some people have a more natural instinct for rendering, real things. But you can definitely learn. It's a lot of work. And I drew the same picture for 2 years, being a perfectionist. And it actually helped me, what that training helped me with is that you don't stop doing a piece until it's right. Mm-hmm. And even with this, I just don't, and sometimes I get stuck. I've been pretty stuck lately, and I finally have 2 new pieces. But I don't stop until it's right.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Tell us a little bit about your background. You were fortunate in that your parents encouraged various forms of creative expression,
yes.
Didn't they?
Yes, my dad is he's deceased, but he was a fiction writer. And he worked in advertising for many years, but when he retired, he did writing full time. And then my mom, she was a homemaker, but a very good seamstress and also excellent interior designer.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually, I just recently found out she's been doing painting and drawing, and she's good at it. She just never did it. She was too busy raising us.
Raising kids, sure.
And then both of my brothers are musicians. One is here locally, plays with the Sweet Colleens. They're excellent. And then my other brother does kind of more experimental music, mm-hmm. so I kind of compare it to this. And he's in Boston. He taught at the New England Conservatory, so he is really into it. And And then my sister is kind of the oddball. She's a doctor. So
well, there's some creative aspects to that.
I have to. I mean that medicine is definitely very creative, and I was a nurse. So for a while, that was the beginning of my career because I thought with art. I mean, I hate to say it, you just don't make a lot of money. So I wanted to be able to take care of myself. I really wanted to be self-sufficient, and I do love science.
You told me that although you're a dancer, you don't feel that you're an athletic person. Is that correct? Or when you were a child, you thought that everyone
was doing art.
Was doing art because you were doing so much of it.
Well, I think when you're a child, you just see your world. You don't really see what everyone else is doing. So as I've gotten older, we've gone with people skiing and various activities. Well, they were skiing their whole lives or playing golf. So I'm not good at it. I'm like, well, what happened? Why are they so good? Because I was taking classes at the Walker Art Center. I took private oil painting lessons. My dad would take us out to do painting in the country. So I was surrounded by every art form, really. He would take us to plays and all kinds of stuff.
When you practiced music too, didn't you?
No, that's kind of a funny story. I did not have the patience for music. What am I saying? Yeah, I did piano.
Right.
I was thinking of something else. But yeah, I did piano. However, we kind of were forced to do that. All four of us had to do it. I think a lot of people are forced to do piano. But I mean, that was good training too. Music is good discipline. So.
So then you became a nurse. You have a family, right?
Yes, 2 sons.
And what happened with art during those years?
Well, what happened when they were really young, I was just busy raising them.
Sure.
So, and then when they started school at Our Lady of Grace, that's in Edina, I started taking pictures for the school, just for public relations and advertising. And I wrote articles for them too, and they were published in the Edina Sun and the Catholic Bulletin. So people in that community saw my work, and they would hire me to do portraits, family portraits and children's portraits. So that started my career in I call it service photography, not fine art. But I was kind of doing a little fine art then. Since I was photographing children so much, I did a collection of black and whites of children. And long time ago, Brad probably remembers Edinburgh, we had shows that, and so that, that I did that. And it and then it grew from there. So.
Well, now you did go to art school, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Well, I went to the Atelier and I did it part-time for 6 years, I think, and besides all the training. So I never, that was the only formal training I had, but it was part-time. So, it's kind of on and off my whole life. I never did get a degree in art.
Well, when you were at that school, did you study this?
No.
What did you study?
I drew, I should have brought it.
How about the one
charcoal
drawing that you spent 2 years on?
Yeah,
You've got
I should have brought that. And it is gorgeous. I mean, after all that time, it better be. But yeah, it took a long time. But I learned so much there, not only, just how to see things. Like I wouldn't draw, I would do shadows and they were never dark enough. And when you look at shadows, you think, oh, this is how it is. It wasn't dark enough, and the instructors kept saying, make it dark. So I would get it dark enough. So it did apply to this because, light and shadow are very much a part of this. So it actually helped me to do this. And then form and lost and found edges, just all the elements of. So what I did was a cast. It was a head, a portrait, basically, a portrait with charcoal.
Well, a good friend of mine, Michael Fry, who's a very well-known artist here and director of the Art Center.
He's an atelier artist, too. So.
Yes. I remember going to the Russian Art Museum with him, and he would point to a painting that maybe the person was wearing a yellow coat. And he'd say to me, well, can you see the green and the blue and the gray and the pink and the purple in there? And I couldn't. It looks yellow to me. What is it about artists? How can you develop that?
Well, you develop it at the atelier, for one, because they have you look at, I believe one of the sayings is every color is every color, but just things taken away, added and taken away. And I kind of like that. So that black over there is not black. It's got a little bit of blue, the walls, a little bit of brown, a little bit of white, even a little bit of red because there's a reddish brown. Yeah, a little hint, like a hue, just a hint.
Really?
So, yeah.
And that's what they train you to look
Well,
for?
to really see color, to see that it's not just blue, it's not just yellow, it's not just red. And then you mix, so you see what you're putting in there. You're not using one color.
So you know what's going into it, therefore.
Yes. So you see all the
can
different
see it.
colors that go into it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like brown and black have a ton of colors.
Okay. This technique you use, where you photograph objects through rippled or wrinkled glass.
Yeah, it's actually Pennsylvania glass block.
Where did you get that idea? It's very unusual.
Yeah, I actually.
This is a story, I bet.
Yeah, it is a story. My husband and I went on a trip to Chicago. We had been visiting Chicago just for fun, and also I was kind of courting some galleries down there. And we stayed at a hotel that had a underground tunnel to the Lakeshore Athletic Club, which I don't know if anybody's been there. It's absolutely gorgeous. But they have a lot of underground levels. And so I really wanted to go to the pool and swim, and that was, I don't know how far down, but many levels down. So after I swam, and they had a jacuzzi there, I got in the jacuzzi, and I was really relaxed, and I looked up, and there was this huge wall of glass block. And since it was underground, they had to light it with fluorescent light. So which even made the images that came through even more bold. I'm trying to think if some of these are from there. No. But so that was my first experience. So I ran back through the tunnel in my bathing suit, went up to the hotel room, went down, ran back, and started shooting pictures.
Wow.
And I just thought they were the most elegant, cool images.
Okay.
So that's why I did it.
Now, to your right, you've got a camera and a
demo.
block of glass. Is that the kind of glass you use?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the camera first, because that looks very impressive to me.
Well,
For those of us who take photos with iPhones, this is...
Well, you know, first of all, I think the cameras, the point and shoot cameras, are getting so good. They're putting us, you know, not to shame, but I mean they're awesome. So this one is an SLR, and I like Canon. I think Canon and Nikon have excellent lenses. So you know, it really was. I think they're so equal. It's really between those two. So I picked Canon, and it's a Mark II. It is autofocus, although many times for this I do not use autofocus. It wouldn't work because the focus is really hard because it's so thick. So this is the challenge, is that since it's this thick and it's warped all the way through, when you focus, you have to kind of decide on something you want focused. It's really hard to get the whole thing in focus.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a challenge.
So you'd put the camera on a tripod?
Yeah, tripod, and then I'll be, I don't know if you want me to get in front of it, but I get in front of it and shoot through this side, and then in the back are things that usually I have a sheet of plastic that I make my designs on, then put it up against there. But that's how I do it. And this is harder to see because I don't have the lighting here. So you can see the images, but
So
the lighting's different.
You attach the images to the glass. It's not set back.
Well, I did this just to make it simple, but I do have a piece of plastic, acrylic, that I put behind there. But I do have it very close to the glass. So this kind of represents what I do, because I usually have it like right here.
Okay.
If you don't have it close, if you move it back, it makes it even harder to focus. The things are out of focus.
Even more than
so
they would
your
be.
focal plane is really, really short. You don't have a large focal point.
And the camera's how far in front of the glass?
It's
a couple
about
feet? Or?
Well, I use a macro lens so I can get fairly close, but I'd say 4 or 5 feet probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do you pick your subjects?
Well, that's hard to say. I collect interesting items and then kind of put them to, basically just abstract. I put them together the way that pleases me. But what's interesting is that the dance element came out without me knowing. So, for instance, this one, hopefully I'm not covering it up, that's got the green, and you can, this one right here with the green, and you could see the 2 figures on the bottom. They look like dancers. There's a head and the legs sticking up and out. It even looks like bodies coming down, 2 legs coming down too. So, but I didn't know that was happening. So, I had a collection, and I looked at it, I thought, this has dance-like figures in it, and most of them do. That one is really obvious. But also, there's some figurative things in there, too. You can see in this one, there's a fish in the left-hand corner, and kind of a leaf above it, and kind of human, like on the right-hand side, sort of a human, kind of scary. I also think my work is a little bit scary, which I like, because there's kind of a weird creature on the side there, which I like that.
Now, in your book, let's see if I can find it, you actually photograph ballet dancers. I don't know if the audience can see this, but it's a beautiful shot on the left side there, the color. And then the right side
is the abstract.
But it's the same image.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
no, it isn't. What it is this one related. I went through the book and set up what would be next to each other. So this kind of represents the lines in here. Okay. So it's just comparative.
I'm using the wrong words.
Well, it's similar. Yeah, it's the same. It's supposed to be the same design, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many of the photographs in this book are of dancers. Now this one is in sharp focus. Some of the others aren't.
Yeah, the others are more. The others are a little bit more typical of what I do. They're very grainy and soft.
Why dancers?
Well,
why do you photograph dancers?
I love dance. I think dance is one of the most beautiful arts there is. It's just in my heart. I took dance as a child too. It's kind of funny. I was so shy that my sister and I were both very shy. So we would take the classes. Then the time would come to make the costumes and do the performance. And my mother would say, "Where's the fabric?" Because they'd give you fabric and stuff like that. We forgot it. We didn't bring it home. And then finally she realized we're not going to be in it.
You chickened out.
But yeah, so actually as an adult, that carried through. I take class. I say I'm a dancer, which I don't know if I am or not, because I take class. I love it, but I don't perform. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I have my best friend is a professional dancer, so that's kind of fun.
Well, in a quote I read, I should read it, dancing to the visual music in my mind. Mm-hmm. So the dancing, you see music along with the form moving.
Well, and I think my work looks musical. Mm-hmm. It has a flow. It's dancey. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the music, of course, I absolutely love too. My brothers are both musicians. And I actually think music is something that really changes the way you feel. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And I love the rhythm. It's about rhythm and movement to the rhythm. The combination of music and dance, to me, is just the pinnacle of creation.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. I don't know if you can see this image on the left,
Those
your
are more
right
typical,
side.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is you can see the shadows on the floor, and if you compare that, you can see shadows in those abstracts.
Yes, it all carries through, and that's why when we first did this book, my idea was just to do all abstract work. But one of the writers on the book said, no, you need to incorporate these because they relate so well. So she set it up where the book is divided into three different dances. And all of the work in there, it's a mixture of the dancers and the abstract work and how they relate. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. The book is divided into three sections. The first section is called Line.
Well, it's actually different dances, but it's line, form, and I can't remember the third one. Yeah, chaos. I got to read my own book.
So tell us a little bit about the line. As an artist, why is that important?
Line is about drawing. It's about, the lines in here. It's just, you can have straight lines or squiggly lines. I chose to have more circular lines because I really love circles. And circles represent a lot of different things. Ovum, moon, just different, maybe even a spiritual set.
Mm-hmm. And then form, what does that mean to an artist?
Well, I always think of the figure when I think of form, the human form. And I think that's incorporated somewhat in here too. In lighting, how you light form, modeling kind of, modeling with light.
Mm-hmm. And then what does chaos mean to you?
Chaos, to me, there's a little chaos in these. The wild, the squiggles, the wildness of it.
Yeah.
So and the setting free.
There's if I could read another quote, let me see if I can find it. George Slade, who was a writer and a photography historian, wrote this about Polly's work. When I look at Polly's images, I'm robbed of solid footing. I'm disoriented, but that's good, to be occasionally unsure of one's bearing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
I love
agree
what
with
he
that?
said.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I
Do you
love
agree
it.
with that?
Yes, because
Are you trying to do that?
Absolutely. He has great insight. I've known him for many years. He actually was the first one to encourage me to apply for the McKnight Fellowship. So he really liked my work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do like the footing. I think when people first look at it, they're like, well, what is this? And they get kind of, I don't get it. I think that's good. It kind of shakes people, rattles people's cage.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can describe it to them. They go, oh yeah, I see that. So the other thing I love about abstract work is that people can interpret it themselves. Maybe they don't see dancers, maybe they see something else. And so I've had people tell me what they see, and I'm always like, well, I didn't see that. So
that's
it's kind of fun.
That's a very good point for those of us who aren't artists. We look at abstract, and the response I have so often is, I don't get it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
We can get whatever we want
Yes.
out of the image.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So that's okay. And then, of course, with the type of glass you're using, that moves things all over.
Yes, and it makes it even more abstract. Abstract. Because if you just had the circles and photographed them plain, it wouldn't be as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, some of your photos in here, you've got some beautiful photos of flowers.
Yes.
We can talk about that in a minute. How did you photographed dancers, and you've got form
These.
and line. How about flowers? Why flowers?
I promised myself I would never do a flower. And that's because so many people do flowers. And I actually had a gallery encourage me. She said, you really I had done a few florals just because I finally threw in the towel and said, let's just see what they look like. And they did turn out very interesting. And then I had a gallery have me go further, and she wanted me to produce a whole show of florals. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, here I go. But I was pleasantly surprised that they turned out. I just wanted something unique, and so many people do flowers. I don't know how you can make them unique. And I think they are, no one shoots them through glass blocks.
No one shoots them through,
yeah.
Right, through a glass like that.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful colors. Let me see if I can find one of those, or we could maybe talk about the one to your right.
Yeah, and this one, it's probably better to show some in the book, because this is just a section of one of the flowers.
Well, here are some images. I don't know if you can see them well from there, but... So, do you use Photoshop?
No. This is interesting, because this book I have no Photoshop at all. It's all done, I hand paint the pictures. But now lately, the problem is they have discontinued a lot of, film is kind of being discontinued. Lots of films you can't get. Papers that I love to color on are gone, to the point where there's nothing I can color on except canvas.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that. Because I paint with oils, and if you use watercolor paper, it soaks right in. Now, some people use watercolor, but I have never really liked watercolor that much. Mm-hmm. And the traditional way to hand paint photos is with oil paint. So those papers I've tried and tried and tried, and they don't work. So I finally did canvas, and now I'm starting to get back to just doing plain black and white because the paper is so beautiful. Hmm. And I kind of want to do something, I'm moving in a different direction. I want to do something more simple. I love just black and white. Mm-hmm. It just, sometimes I think color takes away from the design.
Mm-hmm. So on these flower images, for instance, you do painting. How do you
yes.
This may be a dumb question, but how do you get the image from the digital camera onto the canvas? And then what do you do?
Well, I was using film with these.
Oh.
And actually, I was using film with these. So that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And then you, in the darkroom, printed on fiber-based paper. Mm-hmm. But those are gone. Like I said, those are gone.
Okay.
So then you paint. When you paint, it's kind of interesting. You don't take a paintbrush, although I have on some. But the way you traditionally do it is with cotton balls. So you take oil paint and dip the cotton balls in it, and then you put too much paint on, and then you take clean cotton balls and rub it down. And I actually learned that with a class that I took here. So, yeah.
Some of these photos of your flowers, I can literally see depth
Yes.
in the petals. You can see
And
down
that's-
into the. How do you?
That's
what
that.
Causes, oh, really?
Well, I
That's
think
where
it warps it and pulls stuff farther away from,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? It pulls it apart a little bit. So that's why I think it makes it look more interesting.
Yeah. Tell us, I think you mentioned to me that you miss the dark room.
Yes, I do. I love, you know, the hands-on and the hand painting too. Now I'm working on in Photoshop to paint them, and that's kind of tough. So what I've done in addition to working on that is I've started to do abstract painting again, just painting. So that kind of satisfies that. But I did love the dark room. I don't know if it's still here. I think it is.
It's not.
Oh, it's not. Oh no. I kind of in the back of my mind was hoping they'd keep it forever so we could go back to it. But
Yeah. Do you mind if we look at a larger
Sure.
image of yours? And what I'd like you to do is walk through this with us and show us what you're trying to do, the story it's telling.
yeah. Oh, what?
You gotta get it.
Oh, higher. Okay.
That cuts
I
my
see.
face off.
He's hiding. Okay, and this one, well, I actually, with the flowers, I had been using real flowers, and finally I gave up on that because they would have a bug in it or something would be torn, and so I wound up getting silk flowers at Michael's. So that is a lily put in there, and then this is a rubber glove. And then this is just, I go to hardware stores and get stuff. This is just a black pole. I don't even know what it's used for, tubing. And then I have like a ribbon with a little gold heart at the bottom. And then this was one of the first ones that I started using furnace filter. So that's a furnace filter, all these lines. And I thought it turned out so cool. And this is also one of the very few that I left the reflections from the camera on. Normally, it's really hard to shoot this and get no reflections. So I was trying really hard to go around. Most of them I do that. I don't do reflections. But when I saw the reflections on this, I thought it looked really cool. This right here, this. So what I think is interesting is making mistakes sometimes turns out wonderful. And I think those of you who are artists know what I mean by that. So the other thing I love about this is things came out like this, looks like a mouth. And I purposely selected that and painted it. I could have just painted that yellow, but I painted it because it looked like a neck and a mouth and maybe the head up here. This is kind of a little figure. That looks like a mouth. This is a ghost. Well, I'd have to pass it around, but that's a ghost holding onto a heart. So there's a lot of crazy things that you can find in them. And I'm amazed what pops out of them. That's part of the thing I love about it, the mystery. I've had things happen. I actually did a portrait once, and very strange. St. Paul Academy, I took pictures. I did their senior portraits outside during their graduation, or right before their graduation. And one of the subjects was a girl, had a halo around her head.
Wow.
I have no idea, and it kind of happens here.
Wow.
I took it to the lab. They go, we don't know what happened. So it must have been a reflection, but we couldn't figure out what it was reflecting from. So she
Yeah.
must have been an angel.
You've said that each of your images tells a story. They could be, the story could be 30 seconds long, it could be longer than that. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm trying to think of an example. Like this, well, I think there's elements that you could put together. This one right here has kind of an Alfred Hitchcock figure way in the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Way at the bottom, almost the center.
Yes.
And I think, he is walking across the bottom, maybe pondering like he ponders. And there's kind of the figure above him is not too sure. It's I call that piece smile down because the smile is going down like that. So he could be reacting to kind of the ominous form there. And then, I don't know, there's a lot. And then there's also some twisty figures, dance figures in there dancing on top of his head. So, I just look at the elements and there's little pieces of stories in it. And I'm sure anyone in the audience could find something else in it. So,
Now you contrast the hard lines and the soft images. Why do you do that?
well, I learned that at the atelier too. I think you need contrast. In some of my ballet pictures, I took pictures in a studio. It's 2B at Hennepin Center for the Arts. And the thing I loved about taking pictures of dancers there is the architecture was gorgeous. They had big columns, straight columns, beautiful hardwood floor, and then some straight trim. So what I loved is the straight lines with the curvy dancer in it. And I think this is the same type of thing. So subconsciously, all this stuff came through.
How about the painting to your right? It's different.
The flower?
Yeah, tell us about that.
That was one of the flowers in the book that is a larger piece. And so that's just a cropped section of it. And that was when I was doing the flowers. Those were done just with the glass block and nothing behind it. So that's the difference between these and those. So it was just the flower. But it still has some interesting elements to it, I think.
Did you mention that it's a new technique you're working on? Or?
Well, these were a little newer because I wasn't using the objects. So like on these, I took a picture through the glass block. So some of those things are behind the glass block, and then in the darkroom, I forgot to tell you this, in the darkroom, I put the same, or different objects, but similar, on top of the paper. So it's actually two things. It's a picture and then objects on top of it. So a picture from the negative, and then things that I put on top, and you just expose the paper again. And it's hard in the darkroom because you don't know what you're going to get. You're in the dark, and you don't know how much time to keep those things on there. So you have to go through paper after paper to find what you want. So learning digital, you get to see it before it's printed, which is really nice.
Do you see, now you've described Alfred Hitchcock here and other things. When you look at it a second or third time, does it change for you?
Well, I kind of focus maybe on the upper part instead of the lower part. There's kind of an upside down dancer or even a horse figure in the upper right-hand corner. And I don't know what on the right-hand side, upper corner, is kind of an interesting face-like creature. There's a lot of faces and creatures in them. So I'm not telling you a full story, but upside down horse running away from a creature. I mean, sometimes I just notice the elements, what's going on in there.
So even if any of us are looking at an abstract, it may tell a different story at different viewings? Yeah.
And they may see something different. They may see a face where I didn't see a face, something like that.
You've talked about the importance of movement in a still image. How do you accomplish that as
Well,
an
I think
artist?
I have accomplished it because of and that's what this does. If I just did straight lines, these were totally, the black lines were totally straight. Well, actually they were straight wire, but I bent it, so it was a little bit curved, but it wouldn't show that much motion if I just had it a curved wire. So to me, that wildness shows a lot of energy and stuff.
Is there something you want viewers to get out of these images? What do you want them to walk away with?
I want them to walk away with their own impression. So, to get their own story from it. I also want them to understand, so if you have questions about it, I love people questioning it, and I also think people are much more interested when you talk to them about it and explain what you do.
Do we have questions?
I had a question
Yes.
about your flowers.
Yes.
Did you yourself paint the flower before you took the picture, or was it a real flower? I forgot.
Oh, I should explain that. It's actually a black and white picture of a flower.
It's a black and white picture?
Yeah, then I paint it.
Okay.
I should have explained that, yeah. It's
You
three.
paint it with the oil.
Yes. So it's three processes. If I do all three processes, it's taking a picture, then adding a layer, except I didn't on that, and then painting it. But on that one, I only use two. So I use whatever the piece dictates. If it's just like this one, I felt if it was colored, it wouldn't look good. So I left it black and white. So some I leave black and white because they look so great black and white.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with this, but I'm thinking now, this is a modern version of still life. You know, this is a picture and a bowl of fruit, etc., still life, except that your images are so dynamic, and they also have people in them that you imagine. And so I think that you really have stimulated the creative side of many people by showing these images. And
Thank you.
It is very rewarding to pick out and interpret the way you do. So this is still life for our century.
Yes, thank you.
This
I'm
is
a pioneer.
This is an art class right here.
Yes.
Yes, in the back.
So this is Catherine, my daughter, and she is 16, and she's thinking about pursuing photography. She's very interested in it. Any advice for 16-year-olds?
Well, get a camera. What I would do is go to National Camera and get a camera, ask them what she needs, but get, an SLR that you can adjust, obviously, the shutter speed and the aperture. And then, I would just experiment. You could definitely take a class here at the Arts Center. But I think experimenting and learning from other people. Maybe she has a photographer she really admires. She could follow. Oh, you looked at your... Is he a photographer?
I'm more interested. I like layering photos on top of each other.
Oh, so you want to do... Yeah, you could do it in camera. You could try to layer something. But also you could try it in a darkroom. You have to find a darkroom. I know they have one at Minneapolis Photo Center, so you could go there. Yeah, the darkroom's really fun. I think you'd like it.
I was interviewing a gentleman who's also put together an art book with photographs of flowers. And he had a good point. He said, I take my camera everywhere.
That is really important.
Do you
Because
do that also?
You know what? I don't do it as much anymore. I have to be really honest, because I think when I got into this, I got real focused on this.
Right.
So I do, but not as much as I used to. But I think especially when you're doing photojournalism and, nature and things like that, you should always have your camera, because you may be driving by something and it's exquisite.
Well, and for learning, for this young woman,
Yes.
maybe for learning, it'd be a good idea to
I agree. Carry it
take
around.
photos everywhere, different light, different
Take a lot of
conditions.
pictures. And with digital, it might be nice to have a digital camera, because she can take, just keep going and going and going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, film, you can do the same thing, but then you have to get it developed and use a lot of film.
Other questions? Michael?
Polly, you've talked about different periods of your work. You were doing portraits, and you've been doing flowers, and then these through the glass block. How current, how recent are these behind you? Can you tell me a little bit, are those the most recent? Or?
No, these are actually a little bit older ones. My more recent ones are huge, so I was a little afraid to bring them in. But the big difference between these and what I do now is that these are naturally occurring scenes. And so either at the athletic club, like I talked about, or some of these, it's interesting that were shot out our back window. We have a bay window with dark wood. And so some of these are just that, squiggled up. And some are from other places. So the difference now is I do setups. I do more setups with this. And those are larger. I just didn't want to bring them in because they're so large.
Wow.
But,
so they're bigger blocks.
Well, no, the actual pieces, the frame pieces are
okay.
bigger. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
I have a question about the image that you have behind the glass there, and it'd be the glass block.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like without viewing it through the block.
Well, yeah, I turned it around.
Well, yeah, but I mean the side that we're seeing. I mean, is it just like that on the other side? Is it just a plain?
Yeah, it's just
disc
plain.
On the other side?
It's plain on the other side. Yes.
There's no dark in the center. Wow.
What do you mean?
Amazing. Well, when we look at it on the other.
This side,
glass,
yeah.
It looks like it's a flower with a dark center and a white edge.
Okay, well that happens.
Yeah,
That
that's what I mean. I
yeah.
wondered if there was a dark
Yeah, there is a dark part there. Yeah, and that's the thing. Anything can happen.
Yeah, okay.
So what you see with your just your eyes could be totally different than what the camera picks up.
Yes, and that's what's really kind of cool. The other thing is, I think I already said this. This is lit in the studio, so it doesn't look like this, because this is harder to see. But we just wanted you to see the idea, what it is.
So you're saying that there's just a white circle that we're seeing, just a white piece of paper.
So you can see how it warps,
Yeah.
how much it warps. Yeah.
Right,
gotta look at
what we're seeing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's very interesting.
It's really fun. It's cool.
Dick, did you have a question?
Is this your first book, Polly, or is there any
Yes.
collections with prior photography?
This is my first book.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Thank
Yes.
you, Dick. Good. I was going to ask about
Good
that.
subject.
Tell us how this got started. How did you put it together?
Okay, I kind of decided I had done art for 25 years as an adult, and I kind of just felt intuitively that it was time to do a book. I also had a show coming up at Minneapolis Photo Center, and they have quite a few artists have books there, and so I thought, well, this is a perfect chance to do it. And I kind of did it as a reward to myself for all the hard work, and also I feel like it's a legacy. So what were you saying?
Well, like legacy to whom? Your family or
Well,
the public?
You mean the
Of you?
legacy?
Yeah.
Of me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of my work. And I also want to say, I was talking to Colin about this before we started. I am the author of this book, but I had a team working with me that was awesome. I had Catherine Reed Day, who owns a company called Story Slices, and her motto is she helps people tell their own story. And she really helped me to tell my own story. So she kind of ran the whole project. Then we found a wonderful book designer, Spring Book Design, Dory McClellan, who I think did a gorgeous job designing it. And then we had a writer, Bianca Sandino, who had the idea of dividing up the book into dances and wrote those dance sections. So, it's all my art, and then I have an essay at the beginning, but these other people were really awesome. So I need to credit them.
Good, good. And you do divide the book into 3 sections,
Yeah.
3 different kinds of dances.
Yeah. Well, everybody can look at this afterwards, but. So first of all, it says the dances. And then Chichiti, which is more formal type of dance. And so all the images go with that dance. And tango, which I think everyone knows what that is. And then the final one is Tarantella. And that's the one with chaos, more chaos. So then all the images are in those categories that fit the categories, obviously.
And you intersperse real dancers
Yes.
with the abstract.
Yeah, so it's all mixed up, but they all have to do with that dance.
Yeah.
So it's a very creative way to put it together, I think.
Uh-huh. Question? Yes.
Could you show us some of the images of the tango dance?
Oh, yeah. And you have to use your imagination here because, let's see. Hold this one.
You want me to hold that up?
Yeah. And
Hold them up a little higher if you could.
let's turn the page. That's kind of hard to do. Kind of tangled up. This could be the posturing back. This is the posturing back too. So yeah, they're mixed up. Do you want me to? I'll just hold it. Oh, except I gotta hold it up. This one is pretty tangled. And
Did you say tangled or tangoed?
tangoed.
Up? Tangoed.
Tangoed.
Up.
That's kind of, those look like dancers, doing tango type things, the lean back and the split legs and stuff. So, I mean, you have to use your imagination, but they fit nicely in the categories, I think.
Mm-hmm. Michael.
When you were courting galleries in Chicago, what was the response?
Well, actually, when I was courting that gallery, it was oil paintings that she initially saw.
Yeah.
But then, so she started taking those, and then I showed her, because I was a little afraid of the abstract photography. I wasn't sure that they would get it. But I got to know her, we developed a relationship, and she started taking the abstract photography too. And she does have the flowers also down there.
I have to say that the pieces that you brought in today, I do feel that tension. They're gorgeous, they're beautiful to look at, you get caught up in them, but I also feel just a little bit of the tension in the piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it really interesting. Some of the tango pieces that you were showing were really elegant and flowing, gorgeous work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's spend just a little bit of time. We're almost out of time. You were talking about trying to get your work into different shows.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? I mean, that probably is an obvious question for you, but for those of us that aren't artists, how do you get into galleries or shows? And
Well, you start low. I started showing work in coffee shops. You really just have to pound the pavement like any business. You have to constantly go to the shows, introduce yourself, try to get an appointment to show them your work, and you just keep doing it, and you have to take rejection. Some people get rejected once or twice and give up. You can't give up. So I started really slow, first in coffee shops, and then probably in galleries that weren't very well known, or they really needed artists, and then worked my way up to more prestigious galleries.
Mm-hmm. Now, winning all the awards you have, I'm sure that helps.
Oh yeah.
For getting into shows.
But I really feel for galleries, they want to see the work and like the work.
Okay.
I think that backs it up, having all the awards. But I think they have to love the work and want to sell it. So.
Mm-hmm. What do you want readers to leave with when they've looked at your book?
Well, kind of a sense of excitement, mystery, their own interpretation, and hopefully an understanding, some understanding. There is writing in there obviously too to explain.
Yeah.
So some understanding of the process.
Well, this is a wonderful legacy for you. And
thank you.
Congratulations. I want to thank Don and Phil from the media department, Dr. Michael Fry, who's the director of the Art Center here. And Polly, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
and sharing all your work with us.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
I appreciate it.